All right, so good afternoon. My name is Zachary Custer, and we are here to do my first video counseling presentation for HSC 524 with Dr. Greg Stewart at Regent University. So for this first video, we are going to be demonstrating the skills taught by Egan and Ivy et al. For empathy, encouragement, and paraphrasing, as well as the techniques. Specifically the solar technique, where we'll be focusing on facing our clients squarely, presenting an open posture, not a lot of crossing the arms or legs, leaning forward here and there, keeping good eye contact, and overall just a really relaxed atmosphere, which is not going to be hard since we're in quarantine and we're in our house. And I get to engage with my beautiful wife and my service dog, who's going to be running around here, I'm sure. She's sleeping right now. So let's go ahead and get started. So, basically, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the craziness that's going on. So I know that you and I talk a lot about stuff all the time, and we're just really going to use this time to kind of talk about how unfortunate things are, I suppose, in our planning. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how you feel. I know we talked a little bit last night about, our plans being put on hold, mm-hmm. a little bit about not being able to move, and I don't know, can you expand a little bit about how you're feeling on, not being able to move into the RV and all that stuff right now?
Yeah, I think that luckily the military really kind of prepared us for just kind of going with the flow on things, and I think after a decade of that, I have pretty much gotten used to these curveballs, as you would put it, as far as our plans getting changed like rapidly like that. So when we have stuff like this happen, while it can be disappointing, or it can be, like, oh wow, this really sucks, it's not necessarily like life altering to where the point of, where it can bring in like depression or anger or, stuff like that, just because we've been through so many of those before in the past, where I think before that lifestyle, it definitely would have affected me that way. Mm-hmm. So while I'm disappointed that we didn't get to jump right into the RV lifestyle, and we're not traveling right now and seeing the country, I know that this is for the best, because we really wouldn't be able to see the country right now anyways, because most of it is on lockdown. And I think that as a family right now, we're definitely making the most of this pandemic. We're doing a lot of fun things as a family, and it seems to, I think the kids are enjoying it. I've enjoyed slowing down. Our lifestyle has slowed down significantly with all the ABA therapies are on hold, and karate is on hold, and gymnastics is on hold, and all of the, the typical, soccer mom van running around every day of the week, and
right.
Hustle and bustle has basically come to a stop. So it's kind of nice for me.
So you had said that, you were a little disappointed, but, things have slowed down a little bit, and you also mentioned that you think the kids, have enjoyed it slowing down. Do you think the kids, do you think the kids are disappointed? And I mean, have they shown, signs of being disappointed at all?
I know for a fact that every time that we've sat down and had to explain to them, what's going on in the world, what's going on specifically in our country and in our state, you can see that facial expression change, that body language, to where they're disappointed that, that the camping trips are not coming, that we're not moving. They're definitely showing the signs when we're having the the conversations with them. And I think especially the younger two, they might not necessarily grasp what's really happening with the virus. But I do think that we're explaining it well, that for our safety, we need to stay put. And I think that we do a good job communicating to them why we need to stay here. And I think that Daniel, our oldest, I think he definitely gets it, why we need to be here. And I think that we do a good job at communicating with them that it's okay to be disappointed, but to not live in that disappointment, that we're going to make the best of the situation, and that, this too shall pass. Like, we're not going to be in this season forever, that this is just hopefully a few months of our life, and that at the end of this, God will show us like what our next step is.
Yeah. Have you experienced, you'd mentioned, being in the military, and as well as I do that, this isn't the first time, we've been in a situation where we thought we were gonna, jump into something, and then God had other plans. Is there times, I guess, life before me and the children, can you give me an experience that you've gone through that somewhat prepares you for a situation like this, that, creates this to be maybe a little bit of a softer blow than it would be because you have gone through something similar prior to the military? Does that make sense?
Well, I guess, when you look back on early life, things are, constantly changing. You don't see that when you're going through them, but when you're younger, you go through elementary school, and then you have the big change of, going to, whether it's middle school or junior high, depending on what part of the country you're in, and then from there to high school, that's a huge change. And then from that to college, that's a huge thing. And then, when you do eventually, make that step to be married, and, those different things. I guess all of those are huge reality changes. And so all of those different things, I guess, can prepare you for, kind of those slaps in the face, so to speak.
Yeah.
But as far as the flexibility and the way that I react to changes happening, definitely the military has I think really prepared me for that the most. But then, in all honesty, I think a lot of it just has to do with my relationship with God. Because as we have seen in the military world, if you don't have that foundation of God, it can really tear a marriage apart. It can tear relationships apart, families apart, because you really have to have that foundation of God to get through it, because you can turn on each other very quickly if you don't have that foundation of God. So while the military has prepared us for things like this pandemic, really it has to do with my relationship with God as well.
Sure. I hear you talk about your relationship with Jesus and your relationship with God, and seeing how that can empower you to get through times of uncertainty. I guess how would you, how do you use that to kind of keep the kids focused? Because I know that you homeschool, and so having the kids around 24 hours a day isn't kind of a new thing for you and for me. But during times where we can't go to the park, where we can't go to the aquarium on a weekend, or we can't go to whatever the case may be, all these fun events that we normally do to keep things kind of to stray away from the monotony of things, because we are in this kind of mundane type of environment right now where we wake up, we're inside all day. How do you kind of keep the kids focused? Does having a relationship with Jesus, does influencing the kids to rely on God, does anything spiritual have to do with keeping the kids focused on not losing their minds from a day-to-day basis on just because it's so monotonous? Does that have any link to it?
I definitely think that my actions and the actions of our family is more of a testimony to the kids than any words that I can say to them. I mean, obviously, doing devotions with them, watching church together, listening to praise music. I mean, all of that is a great influence to them. But really, my attitude, my actions, the way that I am dealing with this pandemic is going to be way more of a testimony to them than any words that I can say, in all honesty, because we could take this, this stay-at-home order, or the monotony, as you put it, as to really to bring into a sadness or a depression or anything like that into our home. We could have a very negative outlook on it, and we could be really miserable, or we could just be very negative about it. But instead, we've chosen to not look at it like that. We created a schedule for them. We cleared out a room so that they could be doing yoga and YouTube activities and workouts. Sure. And we have requirements that they have to do before they can get on their electronics. We have bought fun things for them to do outside. Like doing our chalk on the fence. Like that's something that we don't usually do. Just things like that. Just trying to change it up a little bit.
Sure.
The girls have been cooking with me a lot more. Just things like that. But I really do think that ultimately, them seeing my attitude, which my attitude comes from Christ, because I could easily let my negativity take over, because it's not just all, butterflies and rainbows for me, but, drawing from Christ's power to keep my attitude good, and then the kids seeing my attitude is, really going to be the testimony for our whole family throughout this time.
So it sounds like a lot of what you're saying comes from a place of kind of inner peace, and with everything that's going on, around in our world today, kind of there's this central element of peace that instead of you orbiting around everything that's happening and you trying to find balance in it, you've got everything that's going around in this world kind of orbiting around this central portion of peace that's already inside of your heart. And would you say that that's sort of accurate, that you have this chaotic world that is around you, not allowing it to really affect the inward peace that you have, and that's kind of, I guess if you would say, it's kind of the secret of, that's kind of like the secret of really allowing yourself to get through times like this. You're not allowing outside influences to really bother, the peace that God gives you. Would you say that's kind of accurate?
Yes, I would say that that's true. I mean, it's not like we don't pay attention to what's going on, in the world around us, in other countries or in our country. We still, enjoy, tuning in to when our president is, addressing our country. We still check on, like Italy or Spain or China, what's going on in other countries. One of the devotions I'm doing right now is praying around the world, and so I'm, every day I'm tuning into and reading about other countries, and I'm praying for them, and so I'm not necessarily like isolating myself from what's going on, But I'm not buying into the chaos, that the media likes to bring into our country specifically. Because I think it would be really easy. We've watched CNN a couple times and just turned it off because sometimes they can be very ridiculous in those things. And so I think that we've done a very good job at balancing that. Like, we're aware and we know what's going on, but yet we are still choosing to let God rule in our hearts and not fear rule in our hearts. And it hasn't always been like that for me. I mean, I've been a Christian for a few decades now, and but it's been a long journey to get to this place. And but yes, definitely the way that you put it was perfect. Like, my inner peace is that is my foundation, and so those things that's what encompasses everything. I don't let the other things encompass my peace, and so that definitely gets me through these times.
That's good. I notice you slap on the end of a lot of statements like, it hasn't always been this way, or it wasn't like that at one point in time, or you make some sort of statement to represent a change in you. And so I just kind of see like change must be very important to you, or at least to demonstrate that you have been changed. And then I guess in a way, because I've been changed myself, I can see how, my change and your change has kind of led us to how we react and act towards the situations that present themselves in our lives today. I can see how, and I don't know, I think about things because I'm weird like this, but I don't know, I want my kids to have a great relationship with Christ, and I want them to be stronger Christians than I ever have. And sometimes I feel like, had I not made the mistakes that I made in the past, I would not be as strong of a Christian as I am, or have as strong of a relationship as I am. So what kind of father could I be to say, man, I hope my kids make mistakes like I did so they can have a strong relationship with Jesus, but I don't want my kids to hurt like that. I also think about like, I don't want my kids to see like the pandemic and the issues that we're going through today. I don't want them to be angry at God for things like this, but then again, I want them to also experience that anger and that issue with the Lord, just so they can wrestle with that, so that they can identify that, man, I really need the Lord to show me his peace. How do you work with that as a mom, as a parent? How do you work with that, as a parent, to really, because you seem like, I don't know, I'm sure you think about it, but it doesn't seem to bother you. And if it does, you seem to have an answer for it. And so I'm trying to get that answer from you, because one, you're my wife, not just my client, but two, I like to be counseled too. So I'd like to know how you feel about that.
Well, first of all, talking about my past to the kids is something that I think about and I pray about all the time, because I want, when it comes to that point in time, as they get older, I want to be honest with them about it. Like, I don't want to hide the mistakes that I have made, because I feel like that's going to be a big part of not just my testimony, but the testimony of Jesus Christ.
Sure.
Because, like you said, I talk about how I've been through a change, and that has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with Christ. And I can't talk about, being a Christian without talking about the fact that he's changed me. That's just, part of my relationship with him. But at the same time, it's terrifying to think about, talking to the kids about the mistakes that I have made. And, obviously, I don't want them to, make the same mistakes that I made. But at the same time, I know for a fact that the world that we live in is not a perfect world. And, I know that my children are sinners just like I'm a sinner. And I know that they're going to be faced with the same temptations. And, I pray that they don't make the same mistakes. But if they do, when they do, you know, I will have the grace
Yep.
for them that I don't think I necessarily, you know, had and was shown. And I will, you know, have the forgiveness, and
Sure.
I want to be able to walk through that forgiveness with them, because I think I would have reached this point where I am now in my life a lot sooner if I would have had
Yeah, that's a
that
good
parent
point.
to, you know, walk through that with me. And
Well, you know, as you had stated, you know, you have a lot of really valid points, and how you kind of keep the peace, if you will, of, you know, encouraging the kids, keeping yourself encouraged, keeping me encouraged, keeping kind of the house going, with, you know, everything that's going on, which is a whole lot of nothing, but in here it's going, you know. And I don't know, I posted something on Facebook the other day, and I know you saw this, and I kind of want to just leave you with the word of encouragement that I left with a lot of other people. But you know, I love the saying in the military, embrace the suck. And some people think it's a crude comment, but the reality is sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we can do nothing but simply embrace the situations around us. We can do nothing but accept what we're doing, where we are, what we're doing, where we are. And sometimes those situations are so terrible that all we can do is laugh about it, or we're just going to be absolutely miserable. You know, a few examples come to mind when I think about it, but the one in particular is just being 100+ degrees outside, you know, in the desert with little to no shade. And, you know, we're comparing apples to oranges here, but, you know, and I'm wearing, you know, 60+ pounds of gear, and we're filling sandbags, which is just one of the most tedious tasks. And, you know, we're not getting food later in the day. You know, we have MREs to eat, you know, we're not sleeping good. Basically, we got nothing to look forward to. We're not getting a shower, you know, there's nothing to look forward to. It might cool off to 90 degrees later in the day. I don't know, but the bottom line is just, it sucks, and it's gonna suck for as long as we can think about. And so I just think about that situation, and all I could do for my soldiers is tell them to embrace it. And I don't just tell them to embrace it without like saying, you know, hey, I don't just tell them to blindly embrace it. There's really three facts or three truths to really embrace when we embrace the suck. And that is, number one is that you are never alone in the suck. Most of us in this pandemic, we've got somebody with us. Luckily, you know, you and I have multiple people with us. Some of them we don't want with us, but the three wee ones. No, but we do. We're not alone in this, and just like our, you know, my soldiers, they weren't alone in this. They had me. They had each other. And the second thing is that time doesn't stop, no matter, you know, how much the day sucks or the heat sucks, no matter how bad it is, time does not stop. You know, it's going to continue to tick. The clock continues to tick. And then the last thing is that there's an end. We might not be able to see it. It might be, you know, months or even years from now, but there is going to be an end. And those are really just the three truths that we cling to and we embrace it. So, you know, that's a real, you know, NCO way of looking at things, but it's still true. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and close the video, but I'm not going to ask if you are comfortable praying with me, because I know that you are. But we'll go ahead and pray, and then we'll be finished, if you're okay with that. All right, so Father, thank you for our time together, and just thank you for my beautiful wife and her ability to just shine light on just really awesome things, and be able to just be a light to those who see this video, and those who might be able to glean a little bit from the material that has been posted here. Lord, we just pray for just a great blessing upon the rest of our day, and the rest of our sessions that we get to have together, Lord. If we continue to have the need to do these together, Lord, then I just pray a blessing over those. We love you, Jesus, and we pray for strength as we continue to grow together as a family in this time that you have for us to be so close together in this home, Lord, as this pandemic continues. Lord, we pray for healing both physically and spiritually among this nation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.